Once in a while, an album will come along and absolutely blow you away. An album that has massive amounts of beauty, subtlety, and enchantment. An album that changes with you and evolves with you. That album is Titanic Rising, the fourth studio album by Weyes Blood. The album flirts with pop, electronic, baroque, country. Weyes gives her own take on it and ultimately makes it hers. As you can tell, I love this thing. The album has an overwhelming beauty that fills me with an array of conflicted emotions. When I put this thing on, it takes me to another place altogether. It fills me with such hope, loss, happiness, despondency, and I think that's one of the key factors that really make this record work. The arrangements are so detailed and expansive. The string arrangements are really just to die for. Also, the guitars, the bass, the drums, and all the other small effects that are peppered throughout this album really give the album a lot of meat to stand on and really show how detailed and beautiful it is. Weyes' singing is the right amount of emotive, hard-hitting, and dark. While she never tries to sing over the top, she always sings the right amount for each song, and I think that really helps give the songs the punch they do. For instance, on the chorus of Something to Believe, when she sings I Just Lay Down and Cry, I honestly feel like I feel the exact emotion she does, and it's just displayed so perfectly. The melodies are some of the most well-written I think I've ever heard in all the music I've listened to. Her singing has a great sense of theatricality, how she mixes so many great emotions, melodies, and combines them together to make them so catchy and so memorable, but also quite artsy at the same time. The electronics on this album really add a futuristic element to it. On tracks such as Movies and Mirror Forever, you can clearly hear use of electronics to give the tracks a more progressive, darker, and frankly, more foreboding feel. For instance, the synth arpeggio on Movies fills me with so much conflicted emotions. It perfectly fits the tone of the track and provides the perfect rhythmic drive for Weyes' singing. The lyrics throughout the album perfectly nail loneliness and change. For instance, the album starts out with a lot of conflicted feelings. For example, she wants to leave her past behind, as she says in A Lot's Gonna Change, and even Andromeda. And by the end of the album, we begin to see that she starts to look beyond herself for meaning. Overall, the album is a journey in finding oneself. But by the end, things are left unresolved. When Weyes Blood says she wants to find meaning by the end of the album, I think she means she's looking for something else to drive her in life. And as you hear by the end of the album, the last track is a reprise of the melody of the first track of the album. And I think this is supposed to symbolize the choices that we make. Should we go back to the way we used to be and forget all the progressions we have made in our life? Or should we move on with the new and focus on the future? I think that's a really great message that this album really celebrates. Andromeda, Everyday, and Wild Time really fill this album with a bunch of surreal but upbeat songs that deal with so many great issues and have so many quirky arrangements to them. The opening track, A Lot's Gonna Change, and Movies are probably the most sprawling, ambitious tracks on the album, mixing an array of arrangements, different textures, and different genres. For example, I hear quite a bit of ambient in Movies with its synth arpeggio and really droney synth production. All the other tracks are great as well, filling the role in the story perfectly. Going back to Mirror Forever, I really like the rock and electronic edge it has. This track was co-produced by Brian Dodera of the Lemon Twigs, and it really shows because it has more rock leanings and feels like a vampire holiday to me. Wild Time is one of the best tracks from a lyrical perspective, because it really nails how a lot of millennials feel in our modern world. Something to Believe and Andromeda actually have great slide guitars and have a lot of great country influences in them, which really help to give the album a really eclectic and surreal feel. The album's tracks work together so perfectly, and the interludes provide a great cohesiveness to the album. I also view the interludes as kind of an insight into the narrator's thoughts, because at the end of the album, the last track kind of mirrors the choices she made at the start, while the mid-track, Titanic Rising, which is funnily enough the title track, sees Weyes Blood going to a state of contemplation and struggle. Overall, this album is one of the most gorgeous, most striking, albums I have heard all year. And I would even go as far to say it's one of the best albums I've ever heard, period. I usually listen to quite a few new releases in the year, and this is definitely one of the most standout I've heard in a while. The album feels like it was kind of tailor-made for me, because of how well it suits my taste. This has quickly become one of my favorite albums. An album that's so gut-wrenching, beautiful, no amount of explanation I can give it could really give it justice. I give this album a 10 out of 10, and I highly recommend you check out Wise Blood's Titanic Rising.